with the nuclear physicist, that's a good friend of mine in the Pentagon, tells me that we're going to see a large loss of life in 2022. And I already know, people know from, say, for example, if you talk about, the shots, the kill shots people are getting, they've got a large loss of life just from that in itself. But this is totally different, though. Are the effects of this magnetic pole shift going to cause disturbances on the Earth that could also maybe contribute to what they're saying that there is, or what I'm being told, that there is a large number of different factors that are going to be happening globally, planetarily, that is going to cause this? And they get into storms and everything else, but is that part of what this causes?
I think the main factor is that in the days it's shifting. There's no magnetic shielding for the planet. So the aurora borealis will go down to the equator. And people will possibly spend all night outside to enjoy the beautiful view. But without that shielding, there's a quite high probability for having very strong electromagnetic fields on ground level. And this is now not, we do not have data from scientific research, but there are kind of repeating insights of clairvoyant people who have seen this event unfolding. And they say people will be outside, enjoy the looks of this spectacle, and their nervous systems are going to burn down to the ground.
Wow.
Because of high impact of electromagnetic fields. And they said the symptoms will be flu-like at the beginning, but then it's going to worsen. And many will not do it. So the recommendation is try to get some form of Faraday cage to sleep in, stay inside the buildings, don't enjoy the show outside, and get down from sandy areas and try to find some soil that is conductive, like everything that looks red soil-wise or stone-wise has iron in, and it's shortcutting the fields on ground level, making it a bit more quiet electromagnetically. And this is not a big secret. I heard that the Israeli government is running programs to basically buy a good share of Poland that has exactly the soil quality. Wow. And displays a good share of its citizens to Poland for that time to come. This is what I hear, that there are huge movements in buying real estate, preparing to supply and provide shelter for millions of people.
Could Ukraine actually be a very optimal place, and why we might be having this war in Ukraine is because the real maybe underlying reason is because of the land as well? I mean, naturally, Ukraine is connected to Poland.
I know that it is the area close to Ukraine. I don't know if that geologic constellation is going further down south, possibly. A wild guess, could be. But I see too many other reasons for that stupid war. We've been bringing back human souls after they already have died from COVID shot. Like having relatives that understood what was happening, and they know that signing the first and the second shot and signing the booster is kind of the three signatures Satan needs to take this soul with him. And we had families who were really, really, really in panic about losing their fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters to Satan. And this is why I think it's important to understand what's actually happening on the biological plane. The spike protein itself is breaking a genetic switch. It involves two genes, BRCA1 and 53BP1, and this is kind of the sick healthy switch. It's one part, the BRCA1 is shifting the incarnational bit of the human, the spirit, shifting it out of the body, making space for a disease entity to take over the body, to run a special biological program for cleansing the body. This is what a disease is. Normally, it's a friendly thing. You contract to expel some toxins that your spirit cannot expel. So the spirit moves out, the disease moves in. And this is where those two genes are switching. Normally, BRCA1 is demethylated and 5,3-BP1 is methylated. Then this is changing. And then the spirit is out and the thyroid is opening, calling for a sprout of the disease entity into the body. And COVID is breaking this switch so that the COVID entity stays in for keeps and the human spirit stays out for keeps. This is kind of the first thing that is doing. And the second thing is doing, once taking control of the thyroid, the potassium production in the body is destroyed. At the same time, COVID is killing red blood cells, so hemoglobin goes to ferritin. Then you have a complete disbalance between ferritin and potassium. And the tiny little piezo crystals that host the emotional body, this normally is potassium phosphate. It's a hexagonal crystal that carries the trinary or hexagonal emotional fields, transforming a feeling that is in the field, in the aura, into a signal processed by the nerve, because it's piezoelectric. So it's transforming the field information to an electric impulse. And those recrystallize as iron phosphate because of the disbalance between potassium and iron. And iron phosphate is orthorhombic, and it can host only binary entities. So this is how the system is, on one end, disconnecting from the divine soul, and on the other end, opening the entire emotional body to be possessed. And this is what we see with the long COVID patients. They, not all, but many of them develop narcissistic traits, which is kind of a similar process to happen when the emotional body is not developed properly in early childhood. Then you have the same disbalance in the crystals. This is what you see with babies coming when both parents were jabbed before the baby was created. All those babies have completely identical attributes. They come out, they lift their head at day one. They develop with triple, quadruple speed physically. They are highly intelligent from day one, and they have no emotional body. So this is kind of a way you can see the new species evolving. It's not even the people who got jabbed; they just changed genetically, but not by.
So then it's true what I'm being told, that it is causing DNA manipulation, and
it's in the patents. Check the original patents. Yeah. This is not about vaccinating for a flu. This is about genetic transformation of a species in the patents. It's an open in the public. You just need to go through the paperwork that is out there.
Exactly.
And Moderna, for example, was published. The patent was published before anyone on this planet even knew that COVID is existing. So you see that it's a plot rolled out.
And I have seen some of the documents on the patents that they've done, especially from the German attorney that has done a lot of exposure on that. Is it true then that these babies are coming out with like black eyes and things like that?
No, some of them. Black eye is not.
I didn't know if that
you have black eyes, but this is mostly the excess ferritin that is messing up the system. I've heard of people sweating ferritin in black pearls coming out of the skin because the system needed to get rid of it. Somehow it's all the red blood cells killed, and the ferritin transformed back into the deep storage form of iron in the body.
Okay, all right, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, then they are trying to create a species then for whatever purpose. And I know, like I said, the government, some of those people that are working in the Pentagon, scientists are wondering, were the ETs doing this intentionally in order to have a race that would survive? But we're seeing it's really for their own physical bodies, for them to dwell in themselves.
Yeah. I mean, the archons are the masters of deception. This is
Exactly.
what they're known for. They tell you everything they need to tell you because they only predict your reaction, and they tell you what they need to tell you to have the reaction they want to see from you. This is how they function. It is never about truth or,
No.
honesty or negotiations. The only thing that nicely works with them is contracts. If you find a good reason to dissolve a contract you have made, they bow to that.